This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author U and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
On top of the publishing day to all of you, well, I've got a treat in store, and it really does follow up on a webinar we did this past week for the Publishing at Sea series that we do in the, I don't know if we want to call it winter. I guess we would call it winter time with my partners, Amy Collins and Joan Stewart and Georgia McCabe, the Publishing at Sea. And last week we did a whole deal on getting blurbs and reviews and endorsements. And in the whole scene of reviews, which count, which don't count, always pops up with authors and at multiple stages of their journey. So I kind of was just noodling that and thinking, who knows about reviews out there that can really give the nitty-gritty, that can talk about what's what, who's what. I know those of you who know me, I'm highly opinionated on the ones that you go for and the ones that are not worth the time. And people talk, do you pay for them, or do you try to get it free, or do you try to get a combination? And it could be all of the above. But for the independent author, the independent publisher, there's really one that's critical that you should reach out for, and that's ForeWord Reviews. And with us today is the team from ForeWord, starting with Victoria Sutherland, who is the publisher of it, and she's the founder of ForeWord Reviews magazine for over 16 years. It has continued to be the only trade review journal devoted exclusively to the independent press. In addition to the quarterly print, so they do this 4 times a year, and it's a very well-produced, it's a beautiful edition that people actually will keep on their, it's like a coffee table edition. They provide marketing services for publishers, including Clarion, which is, if you are post-publication of your book, Clarion is really a great resource to go. It's fee-for-review service. And I think what's important, and I'd love to have Victoria get into that, because a lot of times people think, oh, well, if I pay a fee, that means I'm going to get a good review. And I think our listeners need to understand there is no guarantee that you're going to get a good review or not. They also participate in and spearhead the Indie Fab Book of the Year Awards, and that's introduced along with the annual meeting of the American Library Association. And I always like to say what puts ForeWord above the pack is that they have an extraordinarily strong relationship with the American Library Association, and librarians love books. And if your book belongs in a library, ForeWord belongs in your life as well. So they also have a consumer magazine, Spirituality and Health Books, Spirituality and Health, where she's the publisher. So let me just tell who else we have coming in with us. Howard Lovey, who's the executive editor of ForeWord Reviews, will be with us, and he directs the new coverage and analysis for the ForeWord's website and their book review service. So how that operates, along with Matt Sutherland, who's the managing editor. And this is, and I should say also, ForeWord is distributed to 10,000 librarians and booksellers. And it's available. People can buy it in over 350 Barnes and Noble stores across the country. So we have major players here. So maybe, Victoria, let's just start with you. How did ForeWord Reviews start?
Well, about 15 years ago, I was working for a publication called Small Press Magazine. Many of your, not old-timers, but people who've been in the industry a long time will remember that Publishers Weekly started that 20 years ago, and they sold it to a couple of other publishers. A Traverse City-based company bought it, and I felt like they were not doing enough review coverage in the magazine when they took it over. So a couple of editors and I left Small Press Magazine to start ForeWord. A lot of the larger established magazines were still not paying any attention to the independent press community, and I like to say that I saw the future a little bit more clearly than them, and understood that the larger houses who were supporting Library Journal and Publishers Weekly might not see marketing dollars down the road from them as they got bought up by television and media companies. So we started ForeWord to make sure that the independent presses had an affordable way to market their books, and we put a quality package together that would be taken seriously by librarians and booksellers across the country. And from the very beginning, we were very sure to get experts in categories of books that were being reviewed, that we had lengthy and robust reviews that you could tell the reviewers really read the books, that we were delivering information that the wholesalers that librarians and booksellers used would be interested in licensing from us. So not very much coverage by independent presses. About 15 years ago, 56,000 books were being published back then, and now, as you know, it's closer to 1 million coming from the independent press community. So how do you rise your titles exposure in that chaos? A review journal was a good way for us to get started.
So let me ask you this, and maybe we need to get Howard in here quickly with his 2 bits, because I do have arguments with my colleagues, my professional colleagues, about the whole pay-per-view, is it valid or not? And I have some that are so black and white, they say absolutely not, you don't go down that line. And I'm saying, wait a minute. I think that there are some that are certainly above the mark out there. And looking at, and I always think of your pay side, and you've got an unpaid side where you have, it's almost like a pre-publication, or maybe I have that wrong. You can educate me.
Maybe we should start with Matt first, because he was around when we originated the fee for review service and can explain a little about the motivation behind why we did start it.
Okay, Matt, welcome.
Well,
good to have you.
Yes, thanks. Thanks very much. It's with so many review publishers out there just searching, doing anything they possibly can to get exposure. So many of them did not have the experience or did not have the wherewithal to understand the pre-publication review journal, what that meant. So they weren't thinking about getting their books to us early enough. In addition to, when you're a small publisher and there's only a handful of really good review publications out there, you have a really difficult time getting their attention. So it's all predicated, of course, on a reputable publication. I mean, ForeWord had the reputation to do something like this, but it was mainly just to allow us to cover more publishers, to bring to the trade, to bring to our readers a great list of publishers who were doing good things, but simply could not get reviews in Publishers Weekly, Kirkus, Library Journal, and some of the others that were around. But, of course, it was very, very controversial. But our reputation is what allowed us to pull this off. And we used the exact same reviewers that were writing for the magazine to write reviews for Clarion, this pay-for-review service. And it's done really well. We're very, very, very proud of this service that we provide, and it is increasingly popular. So we feel good about what we're doing.
If I can add something. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Howard Lovey. I'm among other things, I'm in charge of the Clarion service. And I come from a journalism background. And so what I strive for is objectivity. And so what authors are paying us for is for an objective review. And along with that comes a very thorough professional review from professional writers. I don't tell them you're going to like this book, you're not going to like this book. But it's not even a question of thumbs up or thumbs down. We give them a thorough critique of everything from the writing style to the plot to spelling and grammar to packaging. And ultimately, even if they end up with a low-starred review, the authors appreciate what we're doing because then they can make changes, they can alter the copy, they can see where they are in the process. So what we offer, our readers is an objective review, and what we offer these authors and publishers is an objective critique.
And the bottom line, really, for your audience and your author clients to remember, Dr. Briles, is that a print journal limits the amount of reviews that we can do. When we can only showcase 150 titles in a print version of a magazine, what happens to the other 950,000 titles that we want to showcase but don't have, the option to in a print vehicle? So that was really the basis behind this. We have all these great books coming in. We can only choose 150 of them. Do you think that these other people would be interested in helping us offset our fee, our cost for putting a review together? $499, which is our fee, and or for whatever the other fee for review services offer, I can't even imagine a better way to get your book manuscript critiqued before it goes to press, or after it is reviewed, to get the review into our licensees' hands at Ingram, Baker and Taylor, Bowker's Books and Print, which is getting into the system. You can't get into the system. You can't get into a library system unless your review is licensed by these people. And for that alone, from my perspective, it's worth the fee.
Oh, I agree with you. We have about 20 seconds here for our first break. So what I would love to do, Victoria, when we come back, is if you could talk about how Baker and Taylor and Barnes and Noble and the like, they really do scan and take those reviews and take advantage, and it can be very helpful to the author. You're listening to Author You, your guide to book publishing. I'm Judith Briles. Victoria Sutherland and the team from ForeWord Reviews is with us today.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Is there a book in you or another? Author You will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at Author U and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Picture tells a story. And it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Sellinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4600. 4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Hi, I'm Judith Briles. With me today is Victoria Sutherland. She's the publisher of ForeWord Reviews, and two of her partners, Howard Lovey, who is the executive editor at ForeWord, and he also does a lot of the news coverage and analysis on the website, and heads up the Clarion Book Review Service, which we've mentioned and we're going to come back and talk about again, and Matt Sutherland, who's the managing editor at ForeWord Reviews and the print review journal that covers all the independent book publishing industry. So they have, ForeWord has an impeccable reputation among librarians and booksellers, including the big boy, Barnes and Noble in the brick and mortar. Who knows where Amazon is out on here, because they're certainly a huge bookseller. But what's really important to understand is there is a high level, I think, Victoria, of ignorance that is out here about, do I only go with free reviews? And of course, Kirkus and Publishers Weekly, and now they have Book Life that's come on board, and ForeWord itself, which is a quarterly publication, does reviews, and the Library Journal. When I think of the top four, I would throw that out there. Am I missing anybody when I say that?
I don't think so. I think you got them all.
Okay, that's the top four. So they can only do so many books. So what's the rest of us to do when you said we have 1 million independent presses out there? Well, we have to kind of scan out there and go, okay, so who's got the credibility and the quality? And that's why you're seeing Kirkus now has a paid per view, and Pub Weekly, their Select, now they're doing Book Life, has it. Library Journal, to my knowledge, hasn't done anything. But then you created Clarion, and that's kind of where I would be going. I don't know where else to go to get Blue Ink Reviews is coming up in reputation for paid reviews. But I don't know where else to go out there that I would be comfortable to refer anyone to. Do you? Anyone else?
Blue Ink is a fee for review service that is beginning to establish itself nicely too, but they don't have a print journal attached to it, and so I believe that the librarians, aren't very familiar with them without that print publication preceding it.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back to the credibility the demand for the library market for reviews, because the very first trade show we went to as ForeWord Magazine was at Book Expo America in June of 1998. And the second morning of the show, my contact at somebody from Baker and Taylor's Title Source 2, which is the wholesale service for librarians to order books from, came to the booth at 8 o'clock in the morning and said, "Who are you guys, and where did you come from, and how can I get these reviews? Because nobody's reviewing independently published books, and the more information I can get into our database about them, the more books I can sell." There's a huge demand for them. But librarians, when they go to Baker and Taylor, will not, need a review attached to the purchase order before they can actually buy the book. So, for instance, if a patron says, "Boy, you guys have a very low or shallow display of martial arts books here. Can you find me one on Qigong, blah, blah, blah." And the librarian will go to their Baker and Taylor account, call up martial arts as a category, and any books that have been reviewed by the four publications that you mentioned will go to the top of the screen, because that's who they're recommending for purchase. That's how important a review is to the library market. a couple of weeks ago, self-published author, a print-on-demand author, called us and said, Barnes & Noble just called and picked up my book, and they recommended that I call you guys for a review so that they could order more. And that says a lot about how valuable a review is to the book-selling market. People need to make a distinction between their book and the hundreds of thousands of others, and a review instantly does that. A credible review from an established source like ForeWord or Publishers Weekly or Kirkus just makes it that much easier for somebody to buy it.
So those who are poo-pooing it are just ignorant. They don't know what's going on. And
well, I agree. I mean, and you asked me earlier about what you should say to those people, and we just have a no argument rule at the office because we have so many customers that if you don't get this, you're kind of got your head in the sand and you're not taking a look around and what's happening. And it's sort of at the beginning I was a little bit insulted because I couldn't believe that people would think I would risk the reputation of ForeWord to give them a review that was good just because they paid for it.
Yeah, that is a belief. But I bet you've probably seen a lot of books that you go, oh my God, what were they thinking printing this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, how great would it be to get the feedback before you went to press on it? Especially for POD publishers.
Yeah, it would always be a good idea to have that option so it comes out that way. All right. Well, let's jump on and move into that because I think one of the big ahas, I'll tell you one of the huge takeaways that because I haven't done that, is taking a review and sending it off with a book to a potential book buyer. I know I did a webinar I did last night, live free webinar, talking about timelines of when to do, and I actually mentioned you in it. And that, and moving along on that, is that to take those reviews, and I mentioned the ABA's grouping that they do where you can put a little write-up and you pay like $150 and you can send it out and get it in front of bookstores that they can then request a copy of the book. What better time to send that free book to a bookstore to consider along with like a ForeWord review that would goose them a little bit more knowing of your reputation. That was a huge aha that dropped in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I'm sure Matt can talk to your audience a little bit right now about what when books are submitted for review, what he likes to see, what some of the criteria is that he looks for. It's the same as booksellers and librarians. He's doing their work for them. Is it that tip sheet or Matt? Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, Matt.
Sure.
Matt, do jump into that. Go kind of like a point by point. What is the thing? When a book comes in, what do your reviewers do first off, too? What are they looking at besides cover, the content, they start reading, etc.?
Well, it's actually a good time right now because I'm making selections for our winter issue right now. So I've got probably 1,000 books that are in my office right now, all divided up by genre, from hundreds and hundreds of different publishers. And from issue to issue, because we can't cover that many books or publishers, we try to get a completely new batch of publishers that we represent, that we cover from issue to issue. So what's stunning to me, though, is how many names that I've never heard of, publishers that are new, that created a small publishing house, and the quality of the work that they're doing. It's just stunning how good their work is. And when you think about it, though, it should be easy for a publisher to produce a good book because they simply can walk into any bookstore and wander around and see super high quality stuff from all the established big publishing houses. But these 1,000 books in the next week or so, I'm going to have my hands on every one of them. I'm going to spend 2 or 3 minutes with them. I'm going to have a maybe list and a for sure list, and it's a lot of fun, but it's also extremely intimidating, daunting to play this game. And then it's a matter of getting them in the hands of qualified reviewers. And we've established over the years a great team of writers and and Howard's very helpful with making sure when I do pick a big stack of books that, you know, he puts sticky notes on them with a certain reviewer's name, and we just know we're in good hands with these guys.
So, Matt, which books passed your muster? You know, what is, you know, give them a little bit of a list of it. Tell us about the packaging, the Library of Congress page, the layout, the character.
I mean, all of those things and more. I mean, I'm literally looking at a book trying to find a reason not to review it. Did they not do a professional table of contents page? Is the book not well organized? Is it, you know, what front matter, back matters, the index, all of these things that if they're not up to trade standards, if it's not something that a librarian's going to pick up and say, wow, this is great, you know, I didn't do my job well. So cover design is huge. It just has to look like it's ready for prime time. And we all know when a book isn't. When you look at something and you just say they weren't trying very hard, and there's no excuse. You can hire world-class designers. You can find world-class editors freelancing right now. There's just really no excuse other than you didn't put the time in or the money in to be taken seriously.
And, you know, Matt, a lot of people don't realize that there is a difference. I mean, I can look almost at some of the self-published books, and I know that they didn't have a professional book designer in. I know that they didn't have an interior designer in. I know that, yeah, they have graphic cover, but they're not the person to do the graphic skills. They need a professional in. With that, we're going to come right back with Matt at Sutherland, and we're going to talk more about how a reviewer decides which books to review. This is Judith Briles. It's off to you.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing, Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972. They believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers, creating beautiful and well-made books. We're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, we love our sponsors that come on, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to one of our new ones. And actually, we've had the principal of 1106 Design on as a guest, and Michelle DeFilippio actually is a joint ventures with me every Monday morning or afternoon, depending on what your time zone is. On an Author Mentoring Monday, we do a live open mic that any author from anywhere in North America. Actually, we had someone call in from Hong Kong, so it was something like, middle of the night for him, that called in that for a full hour you can ask questions. But our new sponsor is 1106 Design, and many of us have dreamed of writing a book. Some of us even have. Then the hard work starts. You need an editor who will design the cover or typeset the pages, who will format the ebook. If you're a business owner, a consultant, or a coach with a serious message and expertise to share, the team of experts at 1106 Design can guide you through the maze. They've helped more than 1,000 authors create top-quality books and avoid the not-so-reputable self-publishing companies. Learn more at 1106.com and then call Michelle at 602-866-3226. 1106 Design. We're so glad they've joined our family. All right, we've got the team from ForeWord Reviews, one of the top review and the only book review group that focuses on the independent press. And with over 1 million books published from independent authors, publishers who have taken the leap that they've discovered quickly if they're going to get the attention of anybody, they have to be able to compete with what New York puts out, both visually and the quality as well as with the content. So Victoria Sutherland, the publisher of ForeWord Reviews, and her team, Matt Sutherland, who is the editor, and Howard Lovey, who is we have editors of both. Matt is the ForeWord Reviews editor, and he has just shared he's got 1,000 books to go through, and Howard Lovey, who is the executive editor of ForeWord Reviews, and where Matt is managing and takes care of a lot of the what goes out to the librarians. So, Matt, you've got 1,000 books in your office, which has got to be a fabulous sight. What is the first? Yeah, you should take a picture and send it. What's the first thing you do when you've got them all in piles, your genre piles? What's the first thing you do?
Yeah, I'll walk over and I'll grab a stack of literary fiction or, nature books, and there might be 50 or 60 books from 60 different publishers, and I'll sit down and the first thing I check typically, because we are working on our winter issue right now, is to make sure that the pub dates are October, November, December or so. Because we do want librarians, we do want these books to be timely. So if, that's one of the first ways that I'll discard a book. If a publisher sent something in that came out back in the springtime, they just obviously weren't spending time at our submissions guidelines on our website. But it literally is pick up a book, and if it's a book on Alzheimer's, say, I want to make sure that the writer's qualified. I want to see if they've been published before. I want to know their credentials, where they went to school, whether they're the right people to write a book like this, and whether it's a timely book. There's hundreds and hundreds of books out there on Alzheimer's. Why is this one different? Why is this one necessary? And then I'll start. So many of the books that I have in here are review copies or galleys, and so we know that they're not the final version. So the cover and certain interior aspects won't be what the final copy will be like. But it is page after page. I'll certainly look at the first 10 pages and check out all of those things just to make sure that they knew what they were doing. And then it's move on to the next pile, grab another genre, and just go book after book after book, but making sure that, everything about these books are flawless. So it's a wonderful, I have what I think is the greatest job in the world. It's just it's just an awful lot of fun to do this from issue to issue. But publishers out there really, really need to understand that they are, I mean, we see all of the university presses are sending us books, so their book is going to be judged against Oxford and Princeton and University of California and Nebraska, and these are the best publishers in the world. And if your book isn't indistinguishable from a book from these guys, then you have really, it just won't happen. I mean, I am picking 150 great books. I'm judging a book, and if it's not appealing to me, it won't make it in the magazine. So it is. I mean, it's got to be terribly frustrating for publishers out there who, they've been told, God, you have the greatest story, you need to write a book, and they think, that's the difficult part is writing the book. Well, not really. I mean, obviously, great writing and a great idea and all of those things are more important than anything else. But boy, there's 100 things on that to-do list that you have to do. Just superb quality, and you've got to hit on all of those things.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, Victoria, I don't know if you know any of the latest stats on how many people out here think that they have a book in them. I heard 80%, 83%, but a great majority of individuals think that they should write a book, or they've been told they write a book. And I've often said they may, but should that book be allowed out? Because what you're talking about, Howard, here, Matt, is that a lot of those books should be maybe for your close circle of friends, and that's it. And you are competing. I've always told authors, you need to go down to your local bookstore. And I tell them, when you go into a local bookstore and you're doing your reconnaissance, you also buy a book. I believe in supporting bookstores. And you have to walk around those current tables. You look at those book covers. You look at fonts. You look at colors. You look at styles. You look at images, how they use. You look at their interiors, because you have to compete with those books in what you present. Am I off base here? Or
That's right. Well, and you know what, Dr. Briles, a lot of people who are self-publishing are approaching putting a book out as a hobby, and that's probably their first biggest mistake. This is a business, and it has to be looked at as a business, and you've got to decide how much it's going to cost to in time, the value of your time writing the book, and then please have it edited by somebody professional. Please have it designed and laid out by somebody professional. I mean, you have several $1,000s into this project before you even have considered getting it into a library or a bookstore. And so many people haven't thought even that, just those 4 easy steps down the road when they say, I've got a book in me. Well, it's not a hobby. I mean, and if you're ever it's a hobby if you only want to sell 10 copies to your friends and family through a print-on-demand company. If you want to take this seriously and be taken seriously by professionals in the industry and wonder why your sales are not taking off, then it has to be. You have to look at it as a real business.
Well,
and during that, right?
That's an amen.
I'm sorry, Judith.
That's a total amen for me. Okay, jump in, Matt or Howard. I don't know who's there.
Well, I just wanted to say that during the writing process, it's crucial to bring in some objective people to talk through some of your issues. I mean, too many people have their close circle of friends, and they let their friends and aunts and uncles read these manuscripts, and of course they're not getting objective feedback. So it's from the get-go. If you're launching into this book publishing process, I mean, you need to surround yourself with top quality people who will say rude things to you if need be. You simply can't surround yourself with people who won't.
Who are yes people.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No. That's where your mother and your sister and your wife, they are not your focus group. They're your cheerleaders, but they're not your focus group, and they need to get that very quickly. You just brought up something I think it's really important, because we have certainly CreateSpace and some of the other print-on-demand variables out here. What's the likelihood of being reviewed with that kind of a format? Are you safe in talking about that?
Absolutely. I'm thrilled when I pull a book off. I mean, I don't care who the publisher is. In fact, I obviously, pay attention to it, but if I don't recognize a name, I mean, I love the idea. I mean, we always have 3 or 4 or 5 self-published books that get reviewed in the magazine, and it's what we're here. I mean, my job is to discover new writers and new publishers and turn the world on to great books. I mean, so many readers out there are in the discovery. I mean, they just love reading something from somebody they've never heard of. I mean, that book discovery thing. Discoverability is a word that's been bandied about too much in the publishing industry right now. But so many readers do want something really fresh from out of nowhere. So there's absolutely no reason in the world why a print-on-demand, if you're going to print-on-demand format, which it makes so much sense on so many different levels for certain books, that you can't produce something perfect.
Well, and of course, what's perfect with that? When we do that, we're going to have one more break, and here's what I would love to jump into when we come back, because you've mentioned you do 150 reviews per quarter, and then, of course, then you have your Clarion, which are all carried online, correct?
Correct.
Okay, those are all carried online. So when we talk about how books get featured, let's come back and talk about how best to pitch for reviews, and let's get into the definition of what the indie press is today when we come on back, and also let's look at graphic genres that are available. This is Author You, your guide to book publishing, and with us is the ForeWord Reviews. This is Briles.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, book reviews, fee or free? Well, it's hard to get into the free. The big four are Kirkus, Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, and ForeWord Reviews. And ForeWord Reviews specializes in the indie author, the indie press, and that's the team we have with us today, led by Victoria Sutherland. And one of the questions I wanted to get on the table is literally, let's really define very quickly what an indie press is, and that how's best to pitch. If I was an author listening to this and I have a new book coming along, or I've got just one just in hand, how is it best to pitch to ForeWord to get my book considered, besides having a quality book from the get-go that Matt was talking about?
Well, I'll answer the definition of the independent press, Dr. Briles, and then Howard can speak a little bit about how to get our attention. Independent presses are everybody in between a self-published author getting a book print on demand up to Oxford University Press, Cambridge University, any of the university presses who could be doing 200 or 300 titles a year. Who we don't cover are the top 5 publishers, mostly in New York and Random House, Penguin in Bertelsmann in Germany. So Hachette, Macmillan, Pearson, Simon & Schuster, and those people, HarperCollins, are not included. Everybody else is considered an independent press. If you're not corporately owned, you're an independent press.
Okay, so well, some of us are corporations, that are independent presses. But if you're not owned by the big boys.
Right.
Okay, all right, so there's our indie press. And then, Howard, how do we get your attention?
There are 2 parts to that question. There's how to get my attention, and I cover the independent book industry as news, and there's also how to get the attention of the mainstream press. First of all, to get my attention, it's not necessarily only about your book. In fact, it's mostly about your expertise and your relevance. Let's say a conflict is flaring up in a foreign country, and you've written a travel memoir about how you hiked through the countryside and got to know the land and the people. I'm not necessarily interested in the book itself, but I'm interested in you and your thoughts and feelings as you wrote this book. What is your hook? How are you relevant? Now, if you want to get also the attention of the mainstream media, the first thing you should look for is the local media. They're all looking for their own local take on the national or international story. Something that's national interest is going on. Well, there's a local expert right here in our hometown, and she even wrote a book on the subject. For fiction, it's a little more difficult, but does your book raise an issue that goes beyond your book? Does it question assumptions? Does it rethink a historical figure? Or is it a genre that's being discussed in the larger literary world, like YA that's also enjoyed by adults? That's being talked about right now. So it's not necessarily about your book itself, but what about you is interesting, and what is relevant to the local or national media that's covering you.
All right. So now one of the old sayings though is that, I've certainly experienced that, and a lot of my writing before I just switched just to writing about publishing and authors, etc. That my doctoral work is in conflict resolution in toxic workplaces, and I had an international reputation, especially in the healthcare field. I couldn't get any attention locally. So the old saying, there ain't no glory in the whole town, sometimes pops. How do you break through that? I'm sure a lot of authors have that stigma.
It's a question of how you pitch it and to whom you pitch it, and a lot of it is timing. Wait for the right moment to strike. You are the only expert who's actually studied this thing that's making the news right now. And I think, especially when it comes to your local news, they're always looking at ways to find local people who are part of a national or international conversation.
Dr. Briles, I could also probably speak on Matt and Howard's behalf that sending a mass press release out to every media, which is the same and very general, is not going to work for us. You need to take a little bit of time to go to their website or pick up a copy of the magazine or the newspaper and find their style and find the tone and find their voice and figure out what they cover. But by sending me the same press release you sent to your local newspaper and to USA Today or the New York Times, I can see that you don't think that we're really that much worth it to get a story because you didn't spend a couple minutes trying to figure us out. And just tweaking and customizing those first couple sentences to reach, meet our needs of giving our audience what they need will make a lot of difference.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you, you've mentioned that Matt's got 1,000 books in his office. So are you taking any more books in for consideration for the spring, or is it closed off? I mean, for, your winter edition, or is this closed off?
Well, for the next 10 days, absolutely. And if something comes in, even in the next month and it just blows me away, certainly we'll huff it off to a reviewer and give them a tighter deadline. But, speaking about news releases and tip sheets, I live on tip sheets, and they need to be as well done as the book needs to be. Small publishers need to invest an awful lot of energy into those things and keep them tight. I mean, I literally won't read more than 2 or 3 sentences of a news release, but tip sheets and quick summaries and author bios and pub dates and contact information, I mean, jam-pack that onto a tip sheet, and that will do more damage than anything.
Oh, Howard. Who said that? Was Matt or Howard?
It was Matt.
Matt, you just said something. Tip sheet. Let's talk about tip sheets. So that when the book goes in, you want a tip sheet, which would have the author, the publisher, a couple, maybe a short paragraph, or just key sentences with what this is about. What are we looking for here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fold the tip sheet, put it in the inside front flap of your book, and put it in the mail. But I do want to, know all the things that we were talking about. I mean,
we help people create those as well, and we provide a template that has all of the metadata, which is the book title, author, pages, ISBN number, price, any editors. I mean, that information is supreme. And then the book cover, so we can get an idea of what the final jacket is going to look like, especially if you send in a galley. A brief summary of the book, followed by an even briefer summary about the author and their expertise level. Not necessarily about how many cats they have and where their daughter's going to school, but something that really is speaks to the book that will impress the editors.
But right up top, I mean, they need to put that pertinent information. I want to know the pub date right away. I want to know who the publisher is and the author, and I want to know the genre. And Howard's the same way. I mean, it's just, we just do not have much time with 1,000 books to go through. And if I'm searching a tip sheet or these materials and I can't find, certain things, it's just, you made it easy for me to discard the book, and there's just really no reason to do that.
Well, that's right, and I know that as coming from the speaking industry for years, that the videos were really used to get rid of you, not to hire you, to discard you. So if you didn't have a couple of things right up front, you're out, and you're saying the same thing. So I would, Victoria, if you would send me the link to, or one of you send me the link to where this is, because that information needs to get out to all our authors in the AuthorU community.
Yes, yeah. Again, we offer that as a service. It's not a real moneymaker for us, but when we first started in this industry, to tell you the kinds of things we would get in the mail with pocket folders and articles and, this whole media kit that was, all of it is tossed. We need a tip sheet with your pertinent information on it stuck inside the front cover in the book, and you're done.
All right. So it can be really, literally 30 seconds. You can have it. Bang. All right. This is a contender. It goes into this pile. This one doesn't. fabulous. All right, so that's a huge aha for all our listeners, is to learn it's not maybe a full-blown media release. It is a tip sheet with the elementary things to go to the next level so that it could get picked up and read. Very, very important. All right, what's new and what's hot? We have like a minute and a half left. What's new? What do you see coming along, and any trends?
We only have a minute and a half?
Yeah, now you have a minute.
Howard, go ahead. You're kind of out there on the front line.
Well, like I said, young adults is continuing to make inroads, and unabashedly, adults are reading it and even crowing about it. One of our writers wrote a blog about that a few weeks ago that just soared in the number of hits. And graphic novels. These aren't just guys running around in spandex anymore doing super deeds. They're for education. Librarians are accepting them more, and they're accepted as a literary art form. And you're going to hear more and more about graphic novels in the indie press, too.
All right.
What about romance, erotica?
All of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to close off. Obviously, we need to have you back again. So thank you so much. ForeWord Reviews, everyone go to ForeWordReviews.com. Get involved. This is where you should be placing your books for consideration. I'm Judith Briles. Thank you to Victoria Sutherland, Howard Lovey, and Matt Sutherland for being with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being a part of your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.